Alright guys, so since it's like 25 degrees outside, I'm just going to be doing the overview portion inside. Hopefully the lighting's good enough to be able to see everything. So this is my dad's Scar H VFC. He's had this for about 4 or 5 years. The store that we bought it from went out of business, and it was a local shop. He got it for a really good price. I think he got it for like $250 because they were doing some sort of New Year's or Christmas raffle of some sort, and people bid, like they put their price in, and he put $250 in, and my brother had gotten a gun too, and basically nobody was bidding. Simple as that. So he got this for I think might have been $220 or $210, something like that, a little over $200, which was incredible for the time when these came out back. It was, again, 4 to 5 years ago. That was when these were like coming out. They were, maybe a year old. They had just come out, and so they were very, very expensive. I think the price on these now might be like $375, $400, but when these first came out, I'm pretty sure they were dang near $450. I could be wrong though. If somebody knows, let me know. But I know, they were more expensive then than they are now, and that's generally how it goes for airsofts. Some stuff will drop, in price around 5 years, 4 years. Just depends on brands and popularity and stuff like that. Some companies can get away with charging, the same price 6 years later, So this gun it broke pretty quickly on my dad. I think he played with it twice. And he used to play more back then than he does now. He used to go with us, probably played like once every other month, and he would go almost every time. So he probably played with it 2 to 3 times, and then it broke. So we took it back to the shop, and the shop that we got it at, and it was only $20 for the tech fee if you had purchased the gun there. So they replaced a spur gear from the VFC to a G&G, and I think the part was like $15 or $20, which I think is ridiculous for one spur gear. But back then I didn't know anything. I originally thought they replaced the piston too, but it was stock in here, and that's finally what failed. So the piston is what blew out on this back 2 weeks ago. So I ended up upgrading it the way that I upgrade a lot of guns. He's not into my dad doesn't play that much, so I'm not going to do, 35, 40 rounds a second, something crazy. HPA, I just don't think it would be worth it for him. So I did something somewhat budget-minded, and I'll get into that a little bit later, but let's just start with the externals. So on the front here, he's got a suppressor. It's not going to affect the sound at all. If he takes this off, it might make it louder, because okay, so there is foam in here. I don't remember ever putting foam inside this, so maybe this is one of those. You can get some suppressors with foam pre-installed. This is counterclockwise and clockwise, so that's nice. You can put it on, any gun that's 14 millimeter. So there is some foam in there. It doesn't really make it much quieter. I'll take it off and see if there's any difference, but the inner barrel stops like right here. So only half of the actual distance of the suppressor would have a dampening effect. So, but I'll take it off and see what kind of sound it's going to make. Gas block here with the built-in front sight. Got some rail covers here. Got black, and then the middle one was that tan, or is that like a darker, something like that. And then the grip that he has on here is pretty interesting. He likes it. It's kind of like a magwell grip, but it's up here, if that makes any sense. It's got finger grooves, so you put your hand like this. You can put your thumb back here, I guess. You can C-clamp it if you want, and kind of put your finger up, your thumb up here. Obviously with the Scar, it's a little bit thicker, so you can't, really wrap around, at least with my size hands. But it's a pretty comfortable grip. I don't care for it. I wouldn't use it on one of my guns, but it's actually pretty comfortable. Charging handle on the side here locks back. Now, the bolt lock here, if you tilt the gun to the side, it'll lock back on its own. But if it's on the other side, it's not going to lock back, because it's just like gravity. Because when you tilt it here, it falls down and locks. So it's not a automatically locking bolt, is what I'm trying to say. But if you tilt it, you can get gravity to catch it. So generally, you're just going to want to pull the bolt back, hit the lever, let it go, and it locks. Inside here, you're going to see the hop-up. It is a plastic hop-up, and this is one of the faults of VFC scars, really scars in general. The hop-up systems are just kind of poopy. The classic Armies are pretty decent. They're rotary. This is like a standard M4 wheel, and it's actually made of polycarb plastic. So it's extremely brittle, and they're proprietary. So you have to use this hop-up. You can't use one of the classic Army rotary ones, and it's made out of polycarb. So bad design overall. They should have just made it metal. For the price, you should get a metal hop-up inside of your gun, but whatever. So that's kind of a fault. As far as performance, it shoots fantastic, but just quality of that, you have to be careful with that hop-up. Bolt release here makes a nice sound. It's very nice and smooth. The receiver is completely metal. This upper receiver, it is CNC'd. It is super nice, nice texture. Lower receiver is plastic. It has an ambi mag catch right there, and then the bolt lock, and it has an ambi selector switch, which I took out because, quite honestly, he never uses that side, and it's very loose. These VFCs are kind of known for that. The selector switches, once you take them apart, or even after a while just playing with it, they loosen up and they don't feel good on this side. On this side, it feels perfect, no problem. So hopefully he'll like that. I can put the other one back in if he wants, but I just wouldn't have it in there. Standard pistol grip. Sight on the back here is a flip-up sight. I don't know any specifications on how to describe that. It's just a flip-up sight and flip down. On the top here, he has a UTG riser. It's a long one. And then he has a, I forget the classification of this, 5.53 or 5.56, I can't remember. It is a holographic of some sort. It uses CR123A batteries, I believe. He took the batteries out because he just didn't want it turning on accidentally while I was working on the gun. So he took the case and the batteries out, but it does function. It actually is pretty clear on the sight. Now the reason why he put a riser on it is because he has a mesh mask, and his mesh mask is kind of bulky. So it basically just rises his head. So that's all. It's just, it doesn't look good in my opinion because it's so big, but it functions perfectly for him, and that's what's important. Okay, moving on to the stock. You got plenty of sling mount spots. There's two here, and then there's one on the front here. So plenty of those. The one on the stock. Now the stock has an adjustable cheek riser. It's just got two positions, or three positions. So decent. Stock folds. The nice thing about this stock is that the wires are all in the hinge here, so there's nothing sticking out. So it's more realistic. The problem with that, though, is that the wiring gets connected by these two pins on the back of the low receiver. I'll show you what that is. So basically, if you want to do like a BTC MOSFET or something like that, you have to think outside the box like I had to get what I put in here, or you have to drill holes and run a wire through. But quite honestly, I felt that impossible because the other side of this is metal. So I did not want to drill through that. And then where am I going to drill through this? Like, seriously. So I was just like, I'll just keep it the way it is and do some sort of engineering. And I'll show you what I did a little bit later. As far as battery storage, pop this pin out. I'm going to give him these batteries. I have two of these. They're 1300 milliamp Venom 11-1s. They're like 20C. They're not very powerful. These are low discharge 11.1s. These are low on the scale. I had two of them. They weren't powerful enough for the gun that I had built, so they fit perfectly in the stock. Even if the stock's all the way in, they'll fit. In fact, it's just ever so slightly longer than the 7.4 that he used to use. So going on to the whole stock, the wiring that I had to do. So on this, you pop the pin out, push the receiver forward, the low receiver, and you can slide out the low receiver. Now this is where you have to be careful with the hop-up, because the hop-up is completely polycarb again. Now the hop-up system on this is completely stock, and it shoots great. Low receiver here. So these are the two pins that actually lock into the receiver in the back and actually make connection. So this actually, as far as internals, I'll go over. We've got a JG Blue motor, got a Crytek piston because the SHS metal rack that I bought for this gun was too tight inside of the rails, and so everything would heat up, and the rate of fire was retarded low, and yeah, barely cycled. So I just put a Crytac piston in here, and it works fine. So I'm okay with that. I do have like 4 other Crytac pistons because I upgrade Crytacs so often that I have just tons of their pistons. So if this one breaks, I'll just put another Crytac in here probably. He doesn't. Again, the rate of fire is low enough that I don't think there's going to be any issues. And he doesn't shoot enough to, I don't think it's going to have an issue. The Crytac pistons are pretty good. So moving along from the piston, it's got SHS 12-to-1 gears, or they might be 13-to-1. Can't quite remember. I think they're 13-to-1 with a low neck sector chip. And then it also has a BTC Spectre Mark II. So it has a BTC in here. You can see the trigger pull is almost nothing, just a little bit of play. I had to swap the trigger because the SCAR trigger was acting a little weird. So I just put a standard M4 trigger in here, and it looks pretty similar. But yeah, I had to wire the BTC into these little pegs, which wasn't too hard, but it was just another step I had to take. So it is the non-Bluetooth version of the Mark II. It's brand new. I have a bunch of these Spectres. If somebody wants to buy one, let me know. But I put that inside of here. It shoots great. Before it was shooting about... I think it was shooting, when the gun was brand new, it was shooting like 410 FPS out of the box. Which is good for it being a SCAR heavy, you want to use it outdoors. But this is the CQB version with the shorter barrel. So it's kind of double-edged sword there. If somebody wants to use it indoor, forget about it. So now it's using the stock spring, but I think just because of the pre-cocking that I have on here, it's using the same piston head. So the FPS shouldn't really have dropped, but in the end it dropped. I remember when he took it out to play, before it broke, it was shooting like 380. So it had dropped like 30 FPS from its original spot, which is normal after having the gun for 4 or 5 years. Now again, he was using the 7.4, so the spring wasn't compressed. But it seemed to have dropped. So shooting 350. So if he wants to play with this gun indoors, he can. As far as magazines, he has 2 high caps. He might have 3. I think he just has 2. So high caps, no feeding issues. So I could have done some high rate of fire setup on this gun, but I was just like, he's not going to really care about that. So let's go ahead and take this outside and shoot it. So semi-auto. As you can see, extremely responsive. You can just go in on the trigger. Now, obviously, my dad's an old man, so he's not going to be shooting like that. But, regardless, I mean, that button just gets tapped, and it's going to fire every single time. Which is really, really nice for trigger response. He's going to be extremely happy with this gun as far as trigger response. Going from using the 7.4 with the stock gun, it's just worlds of a difference. So yeah, semi-auto is super nice and crisp. As far as range, I don't know, with it shooting 350 FPS, 2.5s, I'd say 180 feet stock, which is pretty decent. It's not 200, but about 180 feet, which is pretty good. So for 3-round burst here, it's pretty slow. Again, JG Blue. I know we have high-speed gears in here, but JG Blues are just pretty slow in general. But it's very consistent. Like here at 100 feet, if you aim at somebody and you fire, you're going to hit them with all 3 BBs, which is pretty nice. It's that consistent. Like I can just shoot that target right there. All 3 hit it. Yeah, no problem at all. Now, these magazines are pretty good. Do keep in mind, these magazines were purchased when the gun was purchased. So these are 4 or 5 years old. So I would probably recommend him to buy like 2 more mags, but these mags aren't in bad shape. I tested the other one that he has. They're good enough to play with, but occasionally there's a skip, so you just have to make sure you keep it wound. Yeah, and the BBs have not started to drop. You know, I think he'll have a great time with this gun. Pretty low stress, so nothing should explode on this thing. It's all put together really well. So it's going to make a nice Christmas gift for me and my brother. Again, I purchased the gears and the MOSFET for him, put that in there, and I gave him the piston because I had those laying around. And then my brother gave him this motor, which is well worth 30 bucks. So if you have any questions or anything, let me know. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next one.